yeah.
You're in the mix with DJ Alf 7.
Yo, check it out. It's your boy DJ Alf 7, you know what I mean? And right now, we're going to start this episode off. Now, I took a couple weeks off when I was busy doing some actions on Yang, but we're back to doing the coalition meetings again. The idea of the coalition meeting is as follows. There's like really just two simple rules over here that we ask the people to try to follow. You don't have to follow them if you don't want to, but the first one is we try to agree on two things, then we move on to other things. So the first thing is we ask if we could have a multi-party coalition agree to support Assange. Does everybody in here right now... let's introduce ourselves first. My name is Ed Lee. I'm actually a registered Green Party member, and I am willing to enter the Democratic Party and leave the exit party at will to affect primaries and elections and stuff like that. So I am one of those Dem-enter people. Dem-exit, yeah? I'm also willing to join the Republicans, and I also have a lot of libertarian sympathies as well, but I'm registered Green, and I'm willing to go Dem. That's how I would classify myself. Go ahead. I'll introduce Alan first, and then Charles. So go ahead, Alan.
Hi, I'm Alan Bell. I'm with Trotsky or Bust. Hopefully you've seen me. I'm very much a leftist. I do have some contrary opinions on certain views. I just debated Ed on an Israel-Palestine issue. And I may not agree with you on Assange because of other reasons, but we'll get into that in a second, I guess.
Okay. But would you agree to support Assange, maybe just on the front of free speech and active information?
Obviously, yes, I am for free speech. I question other things about Assange. He has made certain, I would call it not anti-Semitic comments. Well, he has made some anti-Semitic comments. He's also had some people who are, very questionable anti-Semites, I would call them, working for him. So
that's fair.
We'll get.
Okay, go ahead, Charles. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Charles Anderson, host of the Lone Wolf podcast. My goal is trying to find a unity movement from, people on the left, people on the right, libertarians, independents, Green Party, Republicans, Democrats. Get us all together on some issues we can agree upon, because I think we're going to have that big coalition of people on the different sides. We're going to have to unify if we want to be able to win in these elections. Right now, I think we're too divided and too split up. To the Julian Assange question, from what I understand of Julian Assange and the reason that he's being attacked specifically by the United States government, I don't know that much about a lot of the other comments that he's made, so I don't want to speak to that necessarily. But in terms of him revealing the information about the deep state, which is why they want to come after him, whether it be revealing the double taps, the Clinton emails, or whatever, as far as that goes, we need to defend that freedom of speech and the true freedom of the press, a press that's actually informing us more than mainstream media. So that needs to be defended. So for that reason, I'm going to support to defend Assange on that.
That's cool. I appreciate that. I know you've done that before as well, too, yeah? And it's okay if we don't come to an agreement on it, right? But our session is really focused on what we can agree on. The second thing that we ask is, the thing is that, well, this is probably the first thing that we ask, but the second part is we ask two questions at every meeting. The second one will be, we agree that if our leaders cannot come together to get the change that we need, that we as the base will come together and rise and make the change happen ourselves without the leaders if need be. Can we all agree on that?
It's a must. We have no choice.
Okay.
Because our leaders have very different agenda than we do.
Okay. And Charles, you agree to that as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then after that, we branch off when we go and talk about other things that we can agree on. Yeah. The second part of the things that we ask is that I'm not trying to be a leader in this, right? I just want this to be a movement. I want you to organize your own, get together your own groups of Republicans, Democrats, libertarians, independents, and then network with us, right? Network with each other, right? There's nobody supposed to. Don't let anybody become a celebrity in this. We're not really trying to move away from that and just have, there's certain things we can obviously agree upon and just move it forward. So today's actual topic, we're trying to really maybe split this into maybe more topical analysis. We can go off the topic if necessary. Hopefully there'll be more people showing up in a moment. But today's topic is police reform. What can we agree on regarding police reform? A lot of this defund the police is out right now. I'm not really too happy with that particular language right there. I do understand some of the issues that they're trying to address, but I think defund the police is way too loose to be agreed upon. So what can we agree on regarding police reform? Does anybody want to start this off?
You want to go first, Alan, or?
Well, I'm gonna, okay, if you don't mind. To me, it comes down. I grew up in Canada. Canada, you do not have readily available guns. Therein lies the problem. I don't know if you remember a few years ago in Toronto, there was a man and the policeman was approaching him, and the man kept telling the policeman, "I've got a gun and I'm gonna kill you. I got a gun and I'm gonna kill you." The policeman didn't believe him because people in Canada don't have guns. And if it was the United States, if you say that to a cop in the United States, you're going to be dead in a second.
I'm gonna tell you right
right
now, if you're promoting gun control, you're not gonna get a agreement from me on the gun control issue.
Okay, well,
Okay.
then we
So
disagree.
that's okay.
I
Then
mean,
we should choose another. Yeah, we should choose another thing, or you need to modify it. But if you're asking,
I,
yeah,
I cannot modify because I feel so strongly about this.
okay.
And the reason I feel so, I just believe that if you got rid of guns, the policemen themselves won't be as frightened, right?
Okay.
And there will be a lot.
Well, actually, I
calmer.
should introduce actually maybe a possible substitute rule that has been actually strangely enough, brought in by Yang Gang. So the thing is
Okay.
that one idea for gun control that they had was that people be allowed to have guns, but the thing is that they say that there's a chip inside the gun that can detect that you are actually that you are the one holding the gun. Would you agree with right? Would you agree with create with some type of technology that would make it so that the gun can only be fired by one person, or do you think that's too far, or do you think that would be a good no?
I'm sorry. I don't. I'm sorry. Lone Wolf. What is your name? I'm sorry. I don't. I should call
Charles,
you.
Charles.
Charles, yeah.
I'll call you Charles. Yeah. I hope I'm not. Yeah. You can talk. I hope I'm not just hogging all the time.
Oh no, I was going to let you give your side, and then I was going to respond to it. I mean, that's
Okay,
fine.
so,
Okay.
yeah. I am extremely extreme. I'm very much an extremist when it comes to gun control. Like I said, I grew up in another country where there is gun control. You don't have the murder rate. You don't have the police brutality that you have here. To me, that's the fix it. Is that going to happen? No. Why? Because of money. Guns is big business.
Now, just kind of a response there. Obviously, you've got people like the NRA who are going to lobby against the gun control, but I'll be honest with you. We're talking about a unity issue in the country. When you get down towards the South, especially where I'm from, guns are a cultural thing. I mean, the kids, I don't blame it on the issue of the gun. The gun is an inanimate object. A long time ago, kids in my area of the country drove pickup trucks to high school with a shotgun racked in the back window of the truck. You know how many school shootings there were back in those days? Nothing like what you've got today. It's a cultural problem. My opinion, the reason that the police are so afraid of people isn't just because they've got the gun. It's because of what a lot of the culture around us is shaping people to think of the people they come across. In particular, Black Lives Matter's big argument is that it's black men or black and brown men and women being killed more predominantly by the police, right? Well, how are the police and many other people how are they stereotyping these groups? You've got all this statistics being thrown out there that they're committing more of the crimes. This relates to the fact that their neighborhoods are being impoverished, their schools aren't being funded properly, they're not getting the same opportunities in a lot of ways that people in better neighborhoods are.
So is there a middle ground solution we can come up with that we can agree on? You know what I mean? I
Well,
understand that we're not going to agree on these things because of these reasons, but where's the middle ground?
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the first thing that I just want to point this out too, because you brought up like microchipping the guns. The problem that you're going to get from anyone really on the right to agree to that is the right really believes heavily in the Second Amendment, and particularly because they believe it's there to defend themselves against oppressive government, if nothing else. Now, you can debate on whether or not you would even stand a chance at doing that, but that's a belief they really hold dear to their heart. And they're going to argue with putting this technology in guns that just like computers, it can be hacked, and then your gun can be hacked so you can't even fire your gun. That's going to be their pushback argument. So you're going to have a hard time on that. The one thing that I would say that I think we can get unity on, and I'll get your take on this as far as the police go, is I don't believe the police should be so militarized. And I believe that when you become a cop, you should have to learn your community. I think what we have a lot of times are people who are joining police departments who don't grow up in that town and understand the culture around them or understand the people they're policing. And so then they are more nervous when they're encountering people that, they could be a cop in South Carolina and born in New York. It's a whole different culture, or vice versa. So I think that we need to take steps of how you become a cop, certain training you need to go through when you become a cop. And we don't need to spend so much money on buying, infrared vision goggles and all this military crap. Like, spend more money on training cops properly.
So
Okay,
I like that.
right.
Actually, maybe we can all agree on that. So I'm trying to really digest what it is. But the very last thing was you said increase training for police, and I completely agree with that. Actually, I could share it on the screen, but I've actually trained some police officers, and the thing is that because the amount of training they receive is very small, right? Yeah, they come to me
Yeah.
for self defense training, and they're like, "Yo, what I learned in class I felt was insufficient." And like, a lot of them they learn what they like, it's too brutal, Ed. But I'm like, to really gain control of the situation, sometimes you have to establish that control. A lot of the new requirements for police officers, honestly, I feel like makes things more dangerous for them and the person they're trying to arrest, right? They can no longer bring the arm. Actually, I should have my man Stephen Lee, and I'm really sorry he couldn't come here today. A lot of the new requirements about the way that they have to like handle the person makes it loose. Like, if you're trying to really establish control over a person, you need to lock down all the corners so they can't really push up. But what happens is that they're no longer allowed to put anything on the center of the chest anymore. So now the person can get up. And now you create a situation where the head could be rocking back and forth and whacking things. You know what I mean? The person themselves. It could create a more dangerous situation for everybody. They could bite people. You know what I mean? Bodily fluids. It's a much more dangerous situation. But people have no idea, who have never actually done security work, are here making rules about it. It's leading to a goddamn disaster. You know what I mean? So, but sorry to go off. So, what can we agree on right there? You said, I like where you said greater accountability of the police to the community, and then you also said, what was the very last thing that you said that we could agree on? There was some policy change you wanted to make.
My suggestion is just better training all the way around,
Yeah, the better training.
incorporating that you have to learn the community around you before you can hit the street on your own.
Okay.
So maybe that means longer ride along. Maybe you have to go out and, talk to people within the neighborhood you're going to be patrolling or something.
I think there was a recommendation. Yeah, there was a recommendation on Joe Rogan or maybe Jock or one of those guys. That they said everybody who's a police officer should at least be a first or second degree black belt or something, and maybe jiu-jitsu. I would think that's a wonderful idea.
I agree with that. Yes.
So maybe we could all agree that maybe we'll make that specific recommendation. Everybody. It's kind of weird to say jiu-jitsu because then you're like, that school, right? And now is like becomes a political agent. Yeah, and now they're making money off it. But we could say maybe a black belt in some type, or that level of. How can we specify the level of expertise? Should we?
No, you just say a better level of training. If cops come to you, that means they're not trained well enough, right? They should not have to come to you. That should be part of their training, and it should be part of the ongoing training.
So
But
maybe we can all agree right now that cops should have at least an equivalent of a black belt level of proficiency in self-defense and martial arts before being assigned out to be sent out into the streets.
I would agree with
That
that.
something,
Yeah.
that level of training,
Maybe
and not just that, but also handling, right? Yeah, also handling situations so they don't escalate. It's not just about military training, but also how to talk to people, community, right? Yeah, they should get the full training. Maybe even So, is that something we can all agree on?
Well, yeah, and that's part of what I was saying is, as far as the communication, that's why it needs to go based on your area. What with the way they teach you to communicate, if you were a cop in New York, it isn't going to be maybe the way you need to communicate when you become a cop in South Carolina. And this, I think, highlights one other problem, because if I'm not mistaken, when the whole George Floyd thing came about, Minnesota wasn't even using a proper police academy. And so for that reason alone right there, it should be mandatory. Every state that has a police force should have to have a police academy. And every police department within that state should be required to send their people through that police academy. And then like we said, we need to make sure they're getting the proper training. I think that their budget that they've got right now, it seems to be almost like what the federal government does with ours. They spend it on a lot of fluff and waste to just buy more expensive crap. And there's less money being invested in taking care of the problem. We don't spend enough money on infrastructure. They don't spend enough money on training. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, they're juicing the shit out of it too on overtime. They're completely abusing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll notice too, like when we have a problem, like in my neighborhood, right? I literally had someone wrote out a $3,000 check from my account, right? Yeah. You know what happened? The police refused to take a report. Just refused. Yeah. When this thing happened with Andrew Yang, a cop called me and gave me his cell phone number. I said, "This is so strange." I said, "What's going on? When I am an actual victim of crime, you guys are nowhere to be found. Now I'm making some problems for someone who's about to be mayor, and all of a sudden you give me a personal cell phone number. This is real weird, right? Yeah. I've been robbed before. I had a store. Cops came in. They didn't even want to see the videotape. They're like, you're annoying me. They said, and then they left. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Yeah. But when I go to these protests, right, you'll see an army of 10, 12, 15 cops, right? Like when I went to do the July 11th action with MPP and we went to Schumer's house, there was 10, 15 cops there. Where are these cops when I need the cops? So we talk about defund the police, right? It's a very short-sighted way because the police will be taken away from the people who will not be taken away from the people who matter. It will just be like when I call the cops, they're even less available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely true. Now, if I may make a quick point about this, let's remember the media always shows these police killings and that. Remember, the media is not on our side, so the fact that they're emphasizing it, we have to be. I believe the media is doing it on purpose because I believe they fear that the revolution will come, and they just want to make sure that the police are on their side and not with us when it comes. That's my opinion.
I would agree with that just because the mainstream media loves to keep things going. They love to keep the pot stirring. And so in this case, this was a point that I was trying to make to a lot of people during a lot of the problems that came up last year after George Floyd was that I don't believe every cop is a headhunter of a minority. And I believe that it is exactly what we were just talking about, the mainstream media's fault that there are so many cops who are nervous when interacting with black and brown people, just like there's so many black and brown people interacting with cops that have a fear of that. It's because of the way mainstream media is doing everything. Society is literally pitting them towards each other, causing more and more tension and division. And anyone who comes out and defends, a cop at all gets buried under the bus with it too. The mainstream media, I think what the public's going to have to realize, and this police reform is one of the issues they're doing it with, the mainstream media is playing society like a fiddle.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. I mean, and they're literally just pitting us against each other. So where there were people, and like you brought up, Ed, I'm not so convinced that the people who created, I want to know who created the term defund the police. Because one thing I've brought up about the term like Black Lives Matter, for example, I've got no problem with a lot of what their message truly is. But I wonder who started the name because, you've got, people like Soros pumping money in, and then that money didn't go to communities. It went more or less to the DNC. So I'm curious who started the whole defund the police movement, because as you pointed out earlier, that's a very broad statement. And some people take it different ways. Some people are like, oh, no, we just want to trim some of the fat off the police department. Whereas you had other people who were using that term literally advocating for abolishing the police. There's no standard for what the term meant. Different people are using it different ways. And so I'm curious who started that term, because it's almost like, to me, they picked a divisive term because they knew it would cause problems. Why would you use something that broad? Why didn't you just get to the point? If you wanted reform, why not say reform the police? Why do you have to be defund the police?
Well, for what the reason you said, they're playing us like a fiddle.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the one thing that they're really afraid of is accountability, right? And they always try to, whatever they can do, take our money away, but don't hold us accountable, right? So now I wouldn't really make that equivalency with the Black Lives Matter, because for a long time, right, as a not just even as racial minority, but working around those issues, a lot of times you feel like your life doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So that's been a real common. I could see that as just a natural kickback against.
Oh no, I'm not taking away from the Black Lives Matter movement. What I'm talking about is I'm curious. Yeah. Who created the name? And you look at a lot of people who were pumping money into it. I don't blame the people.
I heard the phrase.
I don't demonize the people who necessarily said defund the police.
No, I've heard that phrase around before even it became a movement, though. So I know it was like a phrase that was just kicked around. You know what I mean? So
right.
Yeah. So I could see it and I get it. Maybe it might have been from like a circle that was more similar to the ones that I was hanging around, because I know that phrase was being popped off. So I could see it happening. You know what I mean? Just throwing that in there. Right, yeah? But the defund the police was not something I had ever heard before. Just sharing that also with you, right, yeah? I had heard certain idea. I heard some of the ideas behind it though, right? As in terms of like shelling the money towards social service agencies. But by the way, too, right? Yeah, notice that they stand to gain money in this, right? There's a party that stands to gain money of these services, and they will be promoting it versus, right, activists like us who see it as weird, see the problems with it, but we don't have any money behind us driving this message. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to ask you guys to donate to me right now. I'm probably at the end of the video will, but honestly, that's just a reality, and that's unfortunately why a lot of these commercial messages went out, because there's a driving funding behind it that makes sure it's consistently pushed.
Now, and something else, I mean, maybe we can agree on this here too. I've been accused of being extremely pro cop, and I'm not. I know people in law enforcement, and I don't believe they're all bad, but I do recognize there are bad cops out there, and I think a contributing factor of that is that very tension that we've talked about earlier. There's just some people who are lingering to go out and be a blockhead and go fight. And when they see the tension that's going on in the streets right now, and the way some of these cops who, are getting thrown under the bus, some justifiably have done things, others no, they were completely in the wrong. Like with the guy keeping his knee on the back of George Floyd's neck, for example. Okay, anyone who had any kind of training would have known better. But I think when they start to see all the hostility coming toward law enforcement, I think that's running a lot of the more calm, cool, and collected type out of the room, because they're afraid they're going to wind up in a situation and either be charged, put in jail, or just attacked or lose their job, whatever. So they're getting out now. Whereas the people who want to go out there and fight are looking at that as the opportunity to get out there and just go shoot stuff. So I think that's making things even worse. So I want to get the bad cops out. And so I'm completely not opposed to holding cops accountable when they do something extremely screwed up. On the flip side, I think we as people need to examine things a lot differently too. Like in the case of Rayshard Brooks, they threw the cop under the bus for that, disregarding the fact there was about 30 minutes of interaction where the cop had no problem with the guy. The only problem was when Rayshard Brooks yanked a taser off the cop's belt, took off running, and then in the course of running turns around and points it at the cop. And like he's going to fire it. Now, what do you think's going to happen when you do something like that? I mean, at some point, we've got to accept accountability here. White, black, brown, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you're going to point a weapon at a cop, he's probably going to shoot you. And so I think I want accountability for the cops. If you're a bad cop and you're out there just trying to kill people, you not only need to be off the street, you need to be in jail.
One thing
and I think we as society need to stop immediately going to blame the cop and actually look at the facts of everything and be fair as well.
I agree with you. I will take it one more. Another people you should hold accountable are also their superiors, all the way up to the chief of police. If your cop killed somebody, because there are bad cops out there today, there are crazy people, and their bosses know that these people should not be on the street. Yeah. They're the ones responsible for getting them up, give them a desk job or something,
Actually, that's exactly why I was going with this, because earlier, right, Charles had mentioned the fact that we should really have a greater level of accountability. So let's actually, what I would really be excited to do today is, I know we could talk about the past and all the things that was messed up, but I want to build solutions for the future. So how can we build, or maybe make some, and I know Alpheus already does this, make some recommendations about how we can build community accountability from police officers so that they're accountable to us directly in the community. Alpheus, he's actually, can you introduce yourself? I know you're running for position here in New York City.
How you doing? My name is Alpheus Marcus. I'm a community advocate.
Awesome.
I've actually chat with the very same unions that you're referring to. One of the issues within NYPD is the fact that their policies don't promote accountability whatsoever. I've said this to Ed Mullins as well as Pat Lynch, that some of the rhetoric that they spew, and they do it literally because they need their union members to believe in them. You know what I mean? And some of the things that they do and incite, it really borderlines the code of conduct. But they utilize a position as union leaders to bully both the city as well as the commissioner, where there's no accountability. You know.
So, yeah. How can we actually? What recommendations can we put in line to force them to have accountability to us, the community?
Well, this is what has to be done. You have to get real leaders that's willing to look over the policies, right? Rewrite the policies, and literally submit them to the, the executive portion of the department. NYPD. This way, they can see realistically what needs to be done, as well as the loopholes that they have.
Okay. One recommendation I'd heard was that the police commissioner has to be an elected position by the local community, or each captain of each local precinct has to be elected by the community. Now
that means
yeah.
nothing.
That means nothing. Okay.
Let me say this.
You're a Republican, right? I just want to make sure because I'm a Democrat / Green. We have a Libertarian and we have an Independent. So we have actually possibly agreement from Dems, Republicans, Libertarians, and Independents in the party right now. So this is pretty cool.
Let me say this here to you, right? And I'm gonna give you an example.
All right.
You had a captain that was in charge of the 4A precinct up in the Bronx.
Right.
Right. When the young kid Junior got killed. Right. After captain, there's everything else is promotion. There's no test for anything else other than captain. He got promoted based off the Junior case. He made deputy inspector. They moved him. You know what I'm saying? Despite the fact that his performance and his precinct's performance on his watch was dismal, like literally no relations with the community.
He was playing ball though.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when you talk about electing the police commanders at these positions from the people, how does the people elect somebody when they don't have access to the stats, their record, you know what I'm saying, as well as their performance?
So you're saying, so should it be a higher level, or should it be like maybe a whole bunch of levels?
No, it literally should be, because I hear a lot of talk about reform, police reform and all that.
Right.
And I can tell you this here, none of the politicians are really going to touch police reform. They're going to pass the buck off, federal monitor and all the rest of this, when in all reality, it's the state attorney's general office to do police reform.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's underneath the state of New York. As long as our elected officials are going to continue to pass the buck, right, we will still have these problems. The best thing, like I said, is for us as leaders within the community, get together, look over the policies of the police department, right, see what needs to be rewritten. Because I can tell you, I got the policies. A lot of the policies literally is it's like a boys club. You know what I mean? There's no accountability there. It needs to be restructured, rewritten.
Okay. By the way, I just have a quick question for you on that, because the thing is that one of the experiences that I've had is policies can be written, right? Yeah, but then the reality of the situation can be completely different, because there's the law on the paper and then there's the law on the streets. You know what I mean? Yeah. And those are not the same thing. So,
but
yeah, how are we going to? Yeah.
If they violate them policies, literally they're in violation. Because policy is equivalent to law. If they violate those policies, they're in violation and should be terminated. That's some of the hardest, realities that nobody wants to face. How do we terminate officers when they violate the rules and regulations?
Well, policies are a good beginning. And actually, one of the main events, I don't know if you've ever attended one of these before, but there's usually, just do a quick review. There's usually two things we try to agree on at the beginning of every meeting. One is support Assange, right? Yeah, we could not get that today. The second thing that we agree on is if our leadership cannot come together to solve these issues, we agree as a multi-party unit, right, to try to make this change happen ourselves. And we will rise up and join together and make this happen. So if our leadership doesn't do it, I'm willing to do this, man. I'm willing to go work with, look up the local policies of my own police precinct, because I don't know if you heard recently, I tried to file a case for $3,000. Someone wrote a check out of my account. The cops didn't even want to write a report. The bank still gave me credit, which I appreciate even without the police report. The cops are just so damn lazy. Look, I owned a store. I had someone stealing my store. I had it on videotape. The cops came in. They're like, "Stop bothering us. You're wasting our time." You know what I mean? I said, "What?" Yeah.
Yeah. That I could tell you this here from, I had a case where a family, the daughter called the police. It was a history of domestic violence. She had order protection, everything. And the police felt it was too cold for them to get out the car.
Yo, for real, right? For real. For real.
Young lady ended up, she ended up dying, getting killed.
Damn.
And What happened was they had the hearing, the misconduct hearing, and all that, and even though they found them guilty, right, the officer's still on the force.
There you go. Of course, man. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
So
see, stuff like that has got to be changed. I mean,
yeah,
if you want to join the job whose motto is protect and serve, then you better have your ass out there protecting and serving.
there's
you know
no
what I'm
yeah.
saying?
If you're not, then you either need to be off the force, or if you're out there doing criminal activity, in jail, just like the people that you're locking up.
Yeah.
Uh, one thing that I think can help with the police reform issue, it's a separate subject, but I think this is going to help in some ways. Cops are going to do what the law mandates. If we end this war on drugs, how many people are they going to stop going after? In black and brown communities, or even poor white communities, for example, because they're out there smoking a little bit of pot.
Yeah.
How many people are locked up in jail right now over nonviolent offenses because of laws like that? So in that, you're going to stop a lot of that targeting too. They look at these communities as the cash cow to either write tickets or lock people up.
Yeah.
Because their boss, the chief, probably has some tie with the local jail. They need people in there for prison to get funding. So yeah, I mean it's a corrupt system all the way around. In that crap, you're going to make a dent in it too.
But let me say this here: a lot of people do not really understand the structure of why they do the big arrests and the quotas. The quotas is based off the tax ID numbers that they have. They generate tax ID for the arrest. The judges, they get the case, they assign their tax ID number. So as well as the district attorney, as well as the local jails. This is how the funding comes about. A lot of people scream right now, defunding the police. I broke down to the police commissioner himself on how I can justify defunding is feasible. One, you have Rikers Island here in New York that holds anywhere from 21 to 25,000 inmates. The population down in Rikers Island is less than 4,000, maybe 4,200. So that tells you that crime is down. You don't need all that manpower the same way you had when crime was up. Crime has, been steady decreasing. The population has been decreasing for years. You can allocate money as well as resources elsewhere now for preventative programs. They're not willing to do that because they're anticipating a boom in crime to fill these jails back up. And nobody's really committing the crimes the way they're saying it.
Yeah.
They're anticipating. If it doesn't work out, then they made their investments bad. So now they incentivized to put people in them jails. That's a real danger sign. Sign. You know what I mean? Yeah.
By the way, Ed, can you see me?
I cannot. But one thing I want to share with the viewers right now is the fact is that, see, what Alpheus is doing, right? The thing is that I like it to an extent because he's, instead of like a lot of people, it's going to sound catchy, right? Yeah. I always caught on to it, have an election for the captains, you know what I mean? But the thing is that, unfortunately, the populace is kind of lazy. And people who are community activists like Alpheus, we need to support people like that, you know what I mean? We need to support people that are actually hands-on. Someone's got to just go out there, take the policies, read them. I support that, yeah? So, Alpheus, I know you also have a media that you promote on as well. How can people find out more about you? We have a website. I know you guys do that media thing, that TV show. What's that? Yeah, go ahead. Share that right quick.
That is Truth to Power for an Urban Agenda, where we literally try to wake the people up within urban communities about some of the things that's not taking place within the communities, the positions of elected officials, as well as the interests. We try to empower people to become more vocal, right?
Is that on YouTube, or where do you guys put that up?
Right now it's on YouTube.
Okay.
YouTube and social media.
Okay, I'll have that linked up.
Well, wait a minute, not Twitter. We get to Twitter because Twitter, for some reason, we can't upload the whole file on Twitter. But we have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we're trying to get on iTunes with it. Okay. iTunes and soon Spotify.
I think Lone Wolf, are you on Odyssey? You're on Odyssey now, right?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube and Odyssey. Still fighting the Rockfin battle, though. Not there quite yet.
Anything else?
No, not at the moment. Just those two. I mean, I've got Twitter and then an Instagram, but I mostly just do the videos on YouTube and Odyssey.
Okay, let's hear from Alan one more time. What's your stuff?
I just do YouTube. No, I just do YouTube. I kind of been off a bit lately. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting discouraged. I shouldn't be. We got to stick together and we got to keep this going.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
checking out the channel once again, we have our multi-party coalition and we're talking about police reform, what we can agree on. All right, so cool. Is there any type of police reform that we agreed on earlier that Alpheus didn't get to agree on that you talked about earlier?
We were talking about giving a proper training and demilitarizing the police.
Yeah. So we agreed that we want to have at least a black belt level of physical proficiency for all police officers, and also not just physical training, but also social training, how to talk to people, de-escalate situations, understanding, right? Yeah. And also maybe even some type of community participation requirement. They have to be in the community. Go ahead.
Let me say this here. I started the NCO program as well as the Build a Block program within NYPD. Right? They didn't get the full components of the program because they didn't want to. They wanted me to do it for free.
Okay.
And like I told them, y'all pay consulting firms millions of dollars for ineffective, programs. This here is definitely going to work, and they passed on that. So now they basically suffering.
But you're still doing some of it. So what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
So what are you doing?
Well, I'd sit down with both the commissioner and the deputy commissioners.
Yeah.
Every chance I get when there's an issue, and I work with a lot of the local commanding officers on issues.
Cool.
Yeah, and just real quick, because I know we were kind of talking about this before Alpheus came on, but I want to just run this by him here real quick, see what he thinks. What we were talking about with the community involvement is, as I was talking about, you get a lot of people, sometimes they move states. So someone from New York moves to South Carolina. You need to know the community you're going to be policing.
Yeah.
You need to know the people. Because when you don't know the community and you don't know the people, that adds an extra layer of tension and nervousness, which might cause you to pull a trigger quicker than you normally would. When you know the people better, it's going to take that tension off.
Yeah.
So that training, I think, should be a must for police departments all across the country. Second thing, though, is all this that we were talking about demilitarizing. They're buying all this gear, military-like gear, UV goggles and stuff. And they're buying this stuff, and in half the times, they're not even giving proper training to the officers on how to use any of it. They're just buying the crap. Yeah. And they really don't even need it, in my opinion. So spend more money on training your officers properly and less money on trying to turn them into the Navy SEALs.
That's a fact.
Okay.
That's a fact.
We were also trying to work out like some type of agreement on gun control. So the thing is that one person said he wanted full gun control. The rest of us didn't think that was feasible. I had suggested maybe a possible solution of using a chip. That was also controversial. Is there any middle ground, right, for the people who feel like, they need to have guns, which I get that side of it, right? And people who also enjoy the reduced, death levels that do come from de-weaponized societies.
Well, let me say this here.
Yeah.
You got to remember something. It's not people with the people, the guns that ends up in community like mine. These guys are not going in the stores buying these guns because a lot of them don't have the proper,
right. Yeah.
How can I say it? These are black market guns. So when you speak about gun control, that's never the issue. And I wish that people would literally stop justifying, trying to eradicate the Second Amendment or the First Amendment for, what they want to do. Gun control is not the issue. The issue literally is the fact that when you have people in poverty and you condition them to be disconnected, that's what's going to take place. They're going to find a way to literally control their, how can I say it, their socioeconomics and what they feel is socioeconomics to the best of their ability, which would become violent through guns. I've had this conversation plenty of times. It's not the people in the streets going in there buying these guns. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, but I disagree with that. All illegal guns begin as legal guns.
Correct.
Okay. I've lived in a country. I grew up in Canada. Nowhere in the world you have the murder rate that you have in this country. Okay. And it's because of guns. We can't just ignore the elephant in the room. Now, will you still have crime? Yeah, you'll still have crime in the poor communities, but at least fewer people will be getting killed. At least the police won't become such Nazis because they're afraid, you know? So that's why
wait, if I could just get in for a second, I feel what you're saying, Alan. I feel what you're saying 100%, right? But the thing is that now you have like things have changed where you have 3D printable guns. You know what I mean? Honestly,
I was just about to bring that up.
I could take a pipe and I could put something that's gonna write 2 chemicals in there, like, you know, on some Breaking Bad stuff, because I can really do this stuff. You know what I mean? I could take a pipe with a closed end, put a whole bunch of stuff in there, make you know what I mean, and then have like an open end and have something come out at high speeds. That's technically a gun. A potato gun, by law, technically anything that shoots out a projectile is considered to be a gun. I could have a crossbow that guards my door. Once you come in my door, I'm allowed to have lethal force on you, shotgun. So there's a lot of different aspects of what a gun is and defines.
Let him respond.
My bad. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, there are those things. Still, the numbers will be fewer. They have all the same technology that you're talking about exists in Canada, exists in Europe.
Listen,
okay?
if you've been around people who's been, like, you know, on the streets or in prison, you know what I mean? A lot of these people have to make up their own technologies. You know what I mean? When you put someone down, they'll find a freaking way. You know what I mean? They'll get it on the streets. They'll buy it. They'll hustle. They'll get the illegal way. Whatever they see as their option out. You know what I mean?
So here's the nuance.
You might not like what comes out next. You might not like with alternatives. If they take away the guns, the knives is coming out. In a close quarter situation, knives have a higher. Yo, I got a lot of scars, bro. You see? Wait, right here. You see right here? Someone's right hand put a knife right over my neck. Plus, I got other scars up here. You know what I mean? Yo, they sliced me up a bunch of times.
So here's some nuance here, because the common argument is that there's going to be less death, and that is statistically true. Okay, when you have these countries where they have no guns, there's obviously less gun death. But the problem with the U.S. statistic is they're lumping, as far as gun deaths, the implication sounds like just murder. There's no accountability in there for how much of it was people shooting other people shooting themselves. They're counting suicide into this. That's not harming anyone else other than yourself. Okay, so they're counting suicide into that rate. They're also counting anything police shooting wise into that as well. Well, cops in other countries carry firearms too. So you're combining all these things into the U.S. gun death rate. The only problem and the only argument to that is, if you look at some of the European countries who have similar things, they still have overall high violent crime in a lot of areas. Now, you take Switzerland, where it's mandatory that you serve in the military after you turn the age of 18 if you're a male adult. The good thing about their military is, guess what? You don't fight wars. They haven't been involved in a war since before World War II. That's why they had the Geneva Convention there. It's a peace middle ground, okay? But you have to serve in the military. They discipline your ass. You know how much gun violence they have? Oh, by the way, you keep your gun when you leave the military. So they have guns all over the place as well.
Yeah.
You know how much violent crime they've got with guns? None.
I feel you, Alan. I feel you, but
not an issue.
Alan, I feel you, but like, there's more things I could say, but
it is an issue.
I like to focus on what we can agree on. You know what I mean? So I get that. So let's find what we can agree on. Yeah.
Can I answer real quick? So the suicides will decrease. How is that a bad thing? I don't see that as a bad thing. And
well, no, if you want to kill yourself, you're going to kill yourself.
Not necessarily.
Gun's just one tool to do it.
It's just an easier way to do it. Sometimes someone could be sitting at home drinking and, well, why not kill myself? Well, you know what? If they didn't have the gun there, maybe it wouldn't be so easy.
Swallow two Tide
right about that.
You're going to die.
Nah, he's right. The gun is easier. The gun is easier. The gun is easier. He's right. He's right. The gun is easier.
It's not the guns that's killing people. It's the people with the guns.
Yes.
No, he's talking about suicide. Look, Alan, I see reasons to agree with you, but look, we're not going to get agreement on this issue today. This focus of today's panel is not to decide what's right and wrong. It's not to decide that. It's not to if we can't agree with it, we're gonna we'll leave the squabbling for the politicians. If we cannot come to an agreement on it, we'll talk about what we can agree.
Common ground on in the gun issue is just that we do need a better background check system. Like what Alpheus just mentioned earlier is a lot of these guns who are being bought illegally on the streets. There's this thing called the gun show loophole, right? Maybe if you can close some of that, you're going to make a little bit of improvement, and there's at least some common ground there.
So
No, I agree. That would be good.
I
But talking to Ed earlier about the massacre in Atlanta with the massage parlor, the guy bought the gun the same
so
day.
so let's focus on right. I know we could talk about the problems of it, but let's focus on what we can agree on, and let's start to get a little bit more
Okay.
specific. I like that. So right there, what I really like about Charles' thing is rather than just saying right, yeah, we we don't want to be vague, right? We want to say, oh, we want it right. So he said, close the gun loop, right? The gun show loophole. Is that something we all can agree on? We want to agree on specific things. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
Well, I agree
today
on that, sure.
we all agree. What? But let's be specific. What is the gun? What is this loophole?
So mostly there's these gun shows. People bring all their firearms out, they show them, and then you can go to these places and buy them. Now they claim they do these little background checks, but I mean, some of these things are set up in like tents. Okay, they're not at really like a commercial building. I've been to one that was in a metal building at a fairgrounds. Okay, there's not a lot of computers just laying around where they're running these thorough background checks. Yet they're selling all kinds of weapons there. They're selling knives, they're selling guns, they're selling mace, they're selling retractable batons, they're selling all kinds of stuff here. Okay, and so people can come in and stock up on all sorts of weaponry. You see what I'm saying? So basically, you could go in there and bypass going to, say, like one of my local stores, Palmetto State Armory, where they will run a thorough background check on you pretty much there, or at least what as thorough as you can get right now anyway. Maybe that can be improved later on, but they will run you in the system. And
So are you trying to say that
they get your ID, you can buy the firearm. There you kind of bypass.
So are you trying to get rid of gun shows altogether, or are you trying to get them up to?
No, I mean you can have a. So
but what standard do they have to reach so they're not in the loophole?
A gun show is I'm showing guns. Like if I want to go to a gun show, you can have guns on display. You can show me what kind of gun it is. You can fire it on a range or whatever. That's a gun show. I don't go to a show and buy, like I don't go to Ringling Brothers to watch the circus and buy the elephant.
But we all agree that gun show dealers must attain the same level of, what is that called? Background checks that the physical stores are doing. And then okay, so I could agree to that. Is that something we can? That sounds specific enough. Is that specific enough, or is there anything that I'm missing there? All gun shows must, or these traveling events, whatever, must obtain the same level of background check. Is there a background check, like a main background check organization, or a series of approved background check organizations that exist for this?
Who does the question to there?
Right. Are there a series of approved background checkers? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, like
in the industry,
you go to the Palmetto State Armory, they've got the I'm not sure exactly what site or software they're using to do the background check, but they have a program where you'll fill out a form, they'll run your information and see if anything pops on your system. Now, arguably, that background check needs to be improved as well. There's people making that argument, and I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I'd have to see the details once the proposition's made as far as to what they're trying to use to stop you from purchasing the firearm, whether I could support it or not. So that's kind of a gray area.
Okay.
But at the very least, I think there needs to be some kind of background check, because I don't want someone that's literally waking up in the morning and rubbing himself down in his own crap, and he's that crazy going out and buying a gun.
I've heard of this loophole thing, and I know it's a real thing, and I do support the fact that it's been shown to me several times, not just from Charles today, but I'm sure that many people have heard this issue as well, right? These gun shows kind of like making the guns easier to get, and I do support that. So if that's something, it sounds like something we can all agree on. It looks like Alpheus went off camera. That's okay, but that's something you could agree on as well, Alan.
Yeah, I'll agree on that, right. But that's, like I said, that's like a drop in the...
I feel you. You're not satisfied, and that's okay. You know what I mean? But we're just doing what we can.
And so one thing I'll point to that, Ed, and I'll say this to Alan real quick, is, this is kind of something I've been talking about on my channel. You've got differences in policy that the left and the right, libertarians and all, are going to have. And whereas we agreed that these background checks and this gun show loophole is a good thing, but we disagree on the overall issue of the guns. This is what I keep telling a lot of people. Right now, we got to focus on what we can agree upon so that we come together, we build the coalition, and we start taking the country back. Once the power is back in the people's hands and not the corrupt powers that be right now, once it's back in our hands, then comes the time that we got to debate where our disagreements are at, and then we'll figure out which side has the more convincing argument. But if we do it more right now, like, you know, Ed's saying, the problem is all the people that we both despise who are running our country into the ground, they're just sitting back eating the popcorn, man. They love this shit.
Well, I think the question is, how do we do that? And more importantly, how do we get money out of politics? That's the...
Well, here's one thing I want to, because remember we were trying to, like, today's thing was on police reform. Remember the gun chip idea that we had before about the gun chips? What do you think about if all police officers, their guns had to be chipped, right? Because one idea is that, like, they're like, oh, you know, I'm afraid that the person might take the gun from me. But technically, if that chip existed in the gun, no one could fire that gun but the officer themselves.
You know why that wouldn't? The police would never agree to that, because they'll claim, whether correctly or not, that what if they're in a life-threatening situation and it malfunctions and they can't fire their own gun?
That they'll use that argument, and then similarly in the way that I was just talking about, you're not going to get a lot of right-wing conservatives, libertarians, or just Southern people in general who love guns.
That's fair.
You're not going to get them on board because they're going to argue.
It's not their guns. It's not their guns. It's the police's guns.
Right. I'm saying the police will then say it could be hacked as well, and
that's fair.
It could fire without
no
provocation or something.
Sure. Cool.
So,
all right.
I understand the concept. It's just the problem with the technology stuff is a lot of us look at technology in a good way, but there's also, when you see what's going on in the world around you through hacking, a lot of skepticism. People who are nervous.
I agree with you. I see what you're saying right away. Yeah. I'm just trying to find the next thing that we can agree on, because I just want to see. I would like to hammer away as many solids as we can, and then come out today, like at the end, right? You know, like I'm going to list all the things we agreed upon, right? I think that having like maybe up to 7, I like to have a goal of maybe achieving at least 7, maybe 8, things that we could agree on at each session.
So here's something maybe we can agree upon as far as police carrying. You know, we were talking about police carrying all this militaristic style weaponry. They're trying to look for more non-lethal forms of restraint and whatnot, right? Okay, so typically mace can only be sprayed when you get within a certain range of someone. I'm not sure if you know what these are, if you've ever seen one. They've got guns out now that are pretty much kind of like a pellet gun, but they shoot pepper pellets. Okay. They shoot pepper pellets. They're supposed to be shot. You're not supposed to shoot them within 50 feet of someone. If you're at a distance and you've got a good shot on them, fire pepper pellets on them. It's not bullets. You know,
I mean, it's a great idea, but again, I think the cops would say that, oh, that's not going to stop it, and you'll get cops killed. And
well, it's going to depend on the situation. I think it's just like the taser; it's there for you to use instead of just going straight for the gun. Like, for example,
why don't they use the taser more? That's my question.
Do what now?
Why don't they use the taser more?
So the thing with the taser, and this is just things that I'll say that I can identify right here immediately, is you got a certain range on a taser. Also, we'll go ahead and get the elephant out of the room. You got cops who want to fire guns. These are the kind of cops we just need to get rid of. Aside from that, though, what if you miss with the taser? Like, there's no retracting it quickly to try again. You're out of options at that point.
I see what you're saying.
So if you get these pepper pellet guns, it's just like a gun clip. You know, you can fire round after round, more likely hit your target, and if you got to, change clips or something.
Well,
you know what I mean?
With the pepper pellets, right? Sometimes the person's like going to be like drugged out. You know what I mean? They're not going to feel it. You know what I mean? Well, sometimes, or the person. Sometimes
there's always that possibility.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's true, they gotta breathe, but even then, like, even stumbling around, they could be so out of it, right? Then also the fact of the matter is that sometimes with the pepper pellets, they might have asthma. You might kill them anyways. You know what I mean? It's still people are gonna get hurt and die. So look, whatever the specifics are, a lot of people have not been in situations where they've had to
You gotta use that argument then with the taser too, because what if they got a heart condition or like a pacemaker and that electrical charge fucks them up and kills them?
I've had to put people in holes. I've had to incapacitate people. You know what I mean? I mean, I didn't have to, but I guess I did. You know what I mean? And like, look, you know, these things are these control elements. It's going to have consequences. So I am sympathetic to police officers as well, right, when they have to hold people down and do these things. A lot of people trying to legislate have never done this stuff in their lives. You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
like in terms of using force and stuff like that, like they already have to carry a bunch of shit. You know what I mean? They got to carry their fucking paper reports. They're still using fucking CB radios. What the fuck is that, right? They should have they could have this little chip like you see on fucking Star Trek, right? Making the calls. They're still using old school radios from the fucking 70s in their cars and shit. You know what I mean? They're saddled with a lot of fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? They got to carry a paper pocket so they could write tickets. You know what I mean? How old? Are they still using fucking carbon paper? Like, how old is that shit? You know what I mean? They're walking with a gun. They walk with a taser. Now they got to walk with a pepper spray. They all have the pepper spray, too, here in New York City. You know what I mean? But how many times, right, if I really freaking come for you, like, you know, like, you know what I mean? If I really come for you, right, with real, you know how I like to come at people. You want to use the taser on me, you know what I mean? And then how many times are you going to try to use the taser on me before you pull out the gun on me? I'm telling you, man. Because you think a taser is going to stop me? Like, honestly, like, you know how motivated I am. Seriously,
Well,
right?
be careful.
You've seen a bunch of people get shot with a taser, right?
And once again, there is going to where society is going to have to make a reform here and understand personal accountability, drugged out or not. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a cop, but if you were all cracked out on meth or something,
you know why the army moved up to the 45?
I had a gun and my life's in jeopardy. I'm going to shoot you.
You know why the army moved? You know why the army moved up to the 45?
Because at that point, it's either I die or you die.
Exactly. You know why the army moved up to the 45? Because you know why the army moved up to the 45 caliber pistol?
From the 22 or from what?
From the 22 and the 33.
To kill people, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, because the thing is that in the Philippines, motherfuckers was like, you're going to kill me, I'm going to still get your ass. When you have nothing to lose, you know what I mean? They still cut you with the knife. The 33 didn't have enough stopping power. They shot you, they still get you. It's still the even trade, 1 for 1. You know what I mean? Fuck it. You want to go, you outnumber 5 to 1, but they still go 1 for 1, guarantee. So 33, you blast them in the chest. 45, you put a big hole like this, you stop them. But you must fire 45 to stop them. Otherwise, even a 33, you're still going down.
Yeah, well, and again, that's why I say I'm not in favor of getting the guns off the cop. I think that there needs to be, just like now, if there's some, just like now they encourage using the taser if the person doesn't have a gun.
Yeah,
right?
So look, I get like using the humane tools, but how many, one day you're going to meet a dude who's going to go through that shit. And then every time you're going to be second guessing, like, oh shit, should I use the fucking pistol? You know what I mean?
So what are you saying? One cop's life is worth more than 100 people? Okay.
No, but when you're in that situation,
there's always exceptions to the rule. Yeah.
Well, and first of all, I think we're going backwards from what we were initially saying, because weren't we just talking about earlier in the video cops being properly trained in black belt martial arts?
I agree. They need more training.
If the guy's whacked out on drugs and he's coming at you barehanded anyway, you're gonna have proper defense training to probably put him on his ass without using a gun anyway, if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, but if he has a gun or you think he has a gun,
they're gonna.
Well, yeah. Well, again, this is where it has to be situational. If he has a gun, then that warrants you using your gun for defense.
When they on the drugs, they not feeling it. You know what I mean? So like you could even like you put him in the hole. You have to break you might have to break their stuff, but you got to put him in the. Look, I'm not trying to say, but you got to. They will not feel it. So they will keep moving. They will even dislocate and still go. You know what I mean?
Okay, so
the guy from Wu-Tang chopped off his own dick, right?
Then what's the compromise going to be? Break their arm or shoot them? Because
really,
right now the argument seems to be they're being killed. They're killing too many. So would you rather have them a broke arm or dead?
But you break his arm, you're
going to have to settle on one or the other.
You break his arm, you're going to write the report is going to be bad. You're going down. You're going to be sued for that arm guarantee. You're sued for a guarantee, yeah?
Well, okay, as opposed to shooting them and killing them. And let's say they didn't have a gun on them. They were just on drugs. You're going to get sued for that too, are you not? And now they're dead.
I'm not saying it's a good thing, you know what I mean? But if you shoot them, then
it
can't testify.
Sound like we're proposing a solution to it here. It sounds like we're just basically saying you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. One's got to be better than the other. So which is it? Should they be shot, or should, if they're that doped out on drugs they don't feel anything, break their arm to get them in cuffs? Which one's the better alternative?
That's why we need cops we can trust. That's why we gotta have cops come from the community. Cops that actually care about people. So they're actually like, you know, oh, I know you, like, you know what I mean? Like, if I was a cop, right, and then you was doing something, right, it would be real hard for me to shoot you, Charles, you know what I mean? Because I know you, you know what I mean? And we need to have it like that. Like, those people need to be cops from the community. not some stranger like, I never hung out with a black person before. Oh my God, black person, shoot him, bam. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're scary to me, right? Why? Honestly, these white folks are scared of black people for why? They scared though. Sometimes that happens, right?
Well, and that's what we were talking about earlier. That's a social issue. That's a mainstream media issue. That's a pop culture issue. A lot of the stuff you see and hear around you are promoting this stuff. It's the old adage.
Some racist bullshit.
People are associating a danger with a certain image. If they see the guy walking down the street wearing bandanas, sagging his pants, and looks like trouble, or what they think looks like trouble, they're going to associate that, and that's going to heighten their level of nervousness and tension. It's the old adage, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it must be a duck.
Yeah, and the media always portrays that image of the black man, not someone like Alpheus over here, community activist, things like that, right? We need to promote more of it, right? This is the reality, though, right? Thank you, Alpheus.
That's my point.
I like that.
Pop culture and the media are fueling all this shit.
We listen to the media. The media have us thinking whole types of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. So what, out of the agreement for what we can agree on is in terms of police reform, what else can we walk away with today?
Well, I didn't disagree with freedom of the press. I didn't want to say that. I just am leery of who Assange is.
Don't worry about that. That's okay. I mean, if we don't expect 100% for every time. That would be weird. You get what I mean? But yeah, right. But let's be real with it. You know what I mean? And I thank you for coming today, and I hope that everybody else does it as well. It's just a tradition for the coalition meetings that we do that. And I think it's cool. I think it's not too much to ask. Yeah. So appreciate it.
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah. All right. So anybody have? We're definitely doing this again next week. But is there anything else that we can maybe come to an agreement with police for today's topic? Maybe we'll do any suggestions maybe for next week's topic. Put that in the comments. If you guys have any suggestions, I'd be glad to take them now.
Now, what are you going to do next week? Are you going to invite us, or how does it work?
It's an open invitation from people from different parties. And we'll maybe have another topic for things that we can agree on. And every week we'll either do a topical approach or we'll do an in general approach. Yeah.
No, but I mean, are you going to send an email or?
Yeah, I usually do through Twitter. I had to send through Alpheus through his phone. Yeah. But usually the call it. But by the way, Alpheus, you got a Twitter?
Yeah.
You check it?
I ain't gonna lie to you. I am bad with social media.
Yeah, me too. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I will send that. That's true for a lot of people in this game. Yeah, so I will actually send you the stuff via text. Yeah, like I did this time. Yeah, so I will put it up through a bunch of channels. Yeah. Okay. So I'll see you. So anything else before we go? All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
I think we've laid out a pretty good bit there on the agreement for the police.
Yeah.
I don't think we've talked about education yet. Maybe you want to look at education next weekend.
Oh yeah, that's a great topic.
Conversation about education. We can do that next week.
That is great. Yeah, education needs a lot of fixing. Holy crap. Yeah. Can't wait to see you guys next week. Thanks again for checking us out. God bless. See you on the next one.
All right.
Thank you, Ed.
All right.
Take care.
All right. Cool.
It's a dark day in our nation when high-level authorities will seek to use every method to silence dissent. The truth must be told.
And if you want the truth, you need to check out independent media producers just like myself, DJ L7. You should subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notifications when I release a new video.
The truth of these
We are
words
on all
is
the major
beyond doubt.
platforms. That includes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. Unfortunately, we have definitely seen that these mainstream outlets will cave to corporate interests, so we encourage you to join our independently moderated communities of Reddit and Discord. We also encourage you to subscribe to us on BitChute and Daily Motion so you can see the content that YouTube doesn't want us to let you see. Hey, now it's time for the most important part of the video. That's right. It's time for us to tell you about the Taking Action Group. Do you need an activist? Or maybe there's no activists around willing to help you with your cause and you need to learn to become an activist. That's exactly why we're here. Every week we get up with people from across the nation, in fact even sometimes internationally, and we develop strategies and a game plan to address the issues that are affecting all of us. Every week myself from New York City and of course my co-host Lisa from Los Angeles provide a coast-to-coast perspective on what's going on in the country. If you want to donate to help out with expenses, travel, equipment, stuff like that, then I definitely appreciate it, and you can hit us off at Venmo or PayPal. Thanks a lot. Hey, by the way, we also have a merch store, so check it out. Oh my goodness, it seems like you've reached the end of the video, so make sure you check out some of our other videos. Make sure you subscribe. This is your last chance to do so thanks a lot. And looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please comment below if you have any questions or issues you'd like me to address. And if you're an activist, the time to make things happen is now.